I don't know why I'm laughing. This is supposed to be quite a somber video. Anyway, welcome into the channel. If indeed there are people joining us today, his name's Gonzo. My name's Craig. This is the German football spotlight channel, where, like I say, today we're in quite a somber mood because, Munich have been kicked out of the Champions League, and the reality hit that that's the last time I'll ever see Thomas Muller in the Champions League. Wow, that's kind of takes your breath away, really. I mean, he's been a consistent part of that Bayern Munich team and their Champions League performances for 15, 18 years. Wow, yeah. It's like that moment that you never think is going to come. I would say it's a bit like growing up, but I'm still very much still consider that a work in progress. Yeah. It really hurts, right? I was watching the game, and I was involved in a watch along with Liam and Zia Talks and the crew from the Bayern View. If you haven't already, please go check them out. There will be a link in the description, and there'll be a VOD of this later on today. And again, there'll be overlays and links in the description to the Bayern View. Yeah. I wouldn't even consider myself or ourselves Bayern fans, but you get wrapped up in the moment. You know, it's similar to the previous night, on Tuesday with Dortmund, and you think, well, you're facing a 4-goal deficit against arguably a Barcelona team which is on the verge of, cusp is a better word, right? I love that word, cusp. It's on the cusp of greatness. Hansi Flick's come into Barca, shaky start, signed Dani Olmo. I recall there was something about the registration wasn't done in time or whatever. So they spent 50 million on him, signing him from RB Leipzig, and he sat around, and they've got I'm not sure it's a transfer embargo, but there's a lot of financial problems which it feels like they relate back to the signing of Coutinho from Liverpool for 140 plus million euro with add-ons. Anyway, so Barca in a bit of a state. In comes Hansi Flick. He's an empathetic guy. He's light years ahead of a lot of other coaches. He relates to the young players. He's done something with them on that training pitch. They go 4-0 up against Dortmund in that first leg, and you think, job done. We'll see you in the final. And yet Dortmund somehow with an inspired Serue Girassi with his hat trick pushed Barca really close. I think we even used the phrase it was a rearguard action, which again is not. It's not a phrase that you associate with Barca because they're all out attacking on their front foot. Yeah, they will leave space behind. They are comfortable making themselves vulnerable because they know they'll outscore you. I suppose it's not quite apples for apples. There is a similarity there between that. Kevin Keegan, I'd love it if we beat them. That Newcastle team that you score 4, we'll score 5. Barca will outscore people. Hansi Flick's done that. Whereas what Simone Inzaghi has done with Inter, he's made them just solid, right? Solid at the back. Catenaccio, three anchors that, even you could even submerge that underwater forever and it might rust, but it'll still work. It'll still function. It'll still do a job, and it'll do a job better than anybody else could. Whilst he's also building an army of people that are frightening going forward with a DiMarco and a Matty Darmian on the right. Yeah, it was. So it's took the wind out of us, really. Sorry, we've gone. What are we now? We're less than 5 minutes in, and we've already ambled off the GPS coordinates, and we've gone to a happy place because I think every Bayern Munich fan will. Hopefully Liam from the Bayern View, because he seemed really miserable last night. Hopefully we'll all wake up in a better place. And now's about. I suppose the big job now for Vincent Kompany is to analyse what happened. Pick the guys back up off the canvas. Drink, pep talk, motivate them for a trip to Heidenheim on the weekend in the Bundesliga. Easter weekend as well, right? So obviously the players will need some time with their families. And believe it or not, it feels like we forget this, that they are humans after all, right? They are, yes, they're professional athletes. They're paid a lot of money. I covered that in a slight rant yesterday that if I came to you and said, look, you can be a professional footballer, you might get 10 years out of it, can't control where you're going to go. I tell you what, though, it's pretty much a blank check. You're going to be earning more than €20 an hour down at Lekkerland or Aldi or whatever supermarket chain, right? Or more than your office job. You might earn 40 grand. Sorry, a little reference there from early doors. What about the nostalgia? That was noughties, not 90s. Anyway, if I came to you and said, look, you can be a professional footballer, you play for 10 years, you might have some injuries, you'll travel the world, you may or may not win some trophies, you'll create some outstanding memories, you'll set your family up for life and you can earn what you want. What are you going to say to me? Are you going to sit there with your pint or your schooner or whatever metric volume of fluid is in that glass and say, no, I'm all right, Craig, thanks? Of course you are. Bullshit. You're going to take it, right? So, but at the same time, you've got a family to look after. Both, in your whatever. I don't suppose footballers don't work 9 to 5, do they? Anyway, neither do YouTubers, right? Neither do we. Right? We don't work 9 to 5. We react. We make videos. We stream. We do it whenever, wherever, and whenever the audience is going to be. Anyway, let me try and get it back on point. So, yes, it feels like this is the time. This is the window where Vincent Kompany justifies his role as head coach, because if he fucks up the Bundesliga, then yeah, everyone from the Bayern view to Danny from always buying Chelsea, Zia talks, all you lot out there, then you'll have every right to put his head on a stick. Now is the time, right? So he has to pick the team up, send it home, feeling good about themselves, spend some time with the family, and they all get on that coach and they travel to Heidenheim and they put on a professional display and win the game. And then we move on. And you kind of keep one eye on what Leverkusen are up to. I can't recall who they're playing, but we'll find out soon, because as ever we've done a Tom Daly off the top board. He's a swimmer, if you didn't realise that, by the way. Hence the top board reference. We've dived straight in, haven't we? Without thinking that, oh yeah, there needs to be some structure to this. Anyway, if you have just joined, thank you so much. Like I say, that's Gonzo, I'm Craig. We talk about Bundesliga, we talk about all the teams that are competing both at the bottom and at the top for European and for the title race. And we cover the teams that are representing from the Bundesliga in the Champions League, which is what this theme is about. So yeah, it's a slightly subdued atmosphere, because I think all Bayern fans and all us as objectionable Bundesliga fans wanted to see Munich play a final in their own ground and wanted to see Thomas Muller lift that European Cup for one final time. It's not going to be, is it? It's not going to be. It's a real shame. Anyway, let's do some analysis of what happened in that game last night. And to do that, we started in the wrong place. Right, there's the two lineups. Yeah, we finally got there. We'll take the home team first. So I kept desperately trying to call him Jürgen Sommer yesterday, who, of course, I'm assuming that is a relation, right? Anyway, Sommer, the Swiss goalkeeper, they were playing with this flat back three, this trusted Catenaccio, three at the back, Alexander Bastoni on the left side of it, Pavard, ex-Bayern Munich, who came back to haunt them, and we'll get into that very soon, on the right. And there's SERIE. We didn't think he was going to play. Again, I'm not sure where other people get their probable lineups or get their insights from. And I suppose you go directly to the Bayern Munich website and you fish around on Twitter and look at various comments. It didn't look like SERIE was going to play. He's 37 years of age. He's played 17, 18 times this season, including Champions League games. But with someone of that age, right, that you've got to effectively wrap them in bubble wrap and pick their fights. And I suppose actually, to Inzaghi's credit, last night was one of those fights where you would put someone like that in, just like a Colaccini if he was still playing, right? You'd throw him into a game like this. Because this is where you need your stars to step up. And slight side note, similar to Harry Kane, right? Vincent Kompany and all you Bayern Munich fans were looking at Harry Kane to step up, which he did, and again, we'll come on to that. Anyway, so 3 at the back, Catenaccio style. Left wing, DeMarco, he came in. Matty Darmian on the right. The 3 in the middle was the same from the first leg. Ex-Arsenal, thank you, Gonzo. Henry Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu, very dangerous, deep lying playmaker, Turkish, and then on his right was Barella, and then up top the 2 Titans, big physical Marcus Thuram next to Lautaro Martinez. So that's the Inter lineup, and then for Munich, well, they go with Vincent Kompany's putting his stock in 4-2-3-1. So Jonas Erbig in goal. I believe this was actually his 10th game. Josip Stanisic left back. Konrad Laimer right back. The 2 centre back pairing once again because of all the injuries. And again, we've covered this, as I'm sure every single content creator has as well. It's a makeshift team. He's literally trying to patch that defence together with what he's got left in his roster. So it was Min Jae Kim and Eric Dyer. The 2 double pivot of LA Fitness Leon Goretzka and Joshua Kimmich. The 3 attacking midfielders, Leroy Sané on the left, Michael Olise on the right. Oh my God, if only he had a right foot. And Thomas Muller, the veteran, the man that would be eventually bowing out, in that number 10 role, and as captain, feeding balls through to Harry Kane, top bagsman up front. So there's your 2 teams. Again, you know the score because you watched the game, but we can bring it onto screen just to remind us all. First half. Again, if there's anyone in the chat, feel free to share your thoughts. I felt the first half was cagey. I really did. Munich came out in front. I mean, we can jump around slightly to the match stats because this will support my narrative. Look at that possession. I mean, again, domestically in the Bundesliga, home Munich are averaging 70%. Away, they're still averaging between 65 and 68% possession. To go all the way to the San Siro and control the ball, and they did. I think they had 2/3 more touches than Inter actually did on the night. But again, it's what you do with that ball that counts. And Inzaghi's got this team set up in a way where they're comfortable with an opposition team playing the ball around them because they know that they can switch that back 3 into a 5, and when they do turn that ball over, then they can go forward, left or right, or even through the middle, and just cause havoc. And especially the way they were set up with 2, the 2 up front with Thuram and Martinez going up against Dyer and Kim, they could peel off, find space in the channels. There'll be overlaps. You've got Çalhanoğlu in the middle with that almost that Terminator-like vision, being able to pick out a pass. But again, credit to Munich. I mean, they came out. There were some chances in that first half. Konrad Laimer gets a lot of grief. We actually felt in that first game and in the Klassiker and in that game last night in the second leg of this Champions League game, the sheer fact that Lima kept drifting inside in that inverted right back role was a real asset. I can't remember what minute it was. Maybe it was 28, 27 minutes. He's drifting around as an overlap around the back. He gets the ball. He beats a man. He sends it into Thomas Muller, he's probably on the penalty spot. Probably caught him by surprise. It came quite quick. He's got to react with his body to sort of jump, control it, get a shot, but the shot was blocked. I think that ball then comes back out to Elise, who he's naturally left-footed, right? So anything on his right foot's going to be slightly weaker. People like Darmian and Bastoni were throwing themselves around like a circus act. It was really impressive. Again, Munich just couldn't find a way to score. There were some instances, like there was in the first leg, of people like Acerbi and Barella giving the ball away. Gretzky looked sharp, to his credit. Doesn't get that far up the pitch into the final third. That's not really his purview, is it? Purview. Just said it to Malcolm Tucker. Oh, it's not your purview. That's not a very good Scottish accent, is it? Anyway, yeah. In that first half, it could have been 1-0. Inter had some chances too. Again, that makeshift back two of Dyer and Kimmer throwing themselves around. Herbig pulled off some smart saves, and in the second half, we roll into the second half, and this is where it all changes, right? Harry Kane, he had a lot of grief. Going into that game, the stats were something like, last 3 games he's had 18 shots, 12 on target, he's only scored 1 goal, and that 1 goal gets dismissed because it was against Augsburg, because most people don't really have an appreciation of who Augsburg are. For the most part of this season, and just as a contextual reference, Augsburg, it's like the 14th, 15th biggest city in Germany. There's like 330,000 people live there. However, in terms of a football team, they've been really competitive this year. Norwegian coach Joss Thorup was, at one point, they were up into like 4th, possibly then 5th, and now they've kind of dropped off a bit like they did last season. But they pushed Munich in that Bavarian derby. They were 1-0 up with a cracker of a goal from the Greek journalists. Musiala, with an individual piece of brilliance, pulls them back into it, and Harry Kane gets the go-ahead goal from an amazing Michael Elise cross. But because it's Augsburg, people go, well, it doesn't matter, does it? It's probably like playing against Wigan, but it's not the case, because it's a very competitive Bundesliga term, which is why people are getting all wound up that we, as Munich fans, you're all claiming that you should be bossing it, and you are still 6 points clear of the top. Last year was a bit of an anomaly with Leverkusen because they left it Leverkusen in most games, but it only makes that league healthy. It's what the Premier League needs, right? It needs more competition. Yeah, you could say that Forest are trying to, Forest and Newcastle are pushing teams like Arsenal and Liverpool to make it entertaining, but it's not, is it really? Because it's always going to be a 2 or 3 horse race. It's either going to be Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal pushing. Man United have dropped way off. There's no Tottenham. There's no Chelsea. Look confused. Anyway, that's the Premier League, right? So Harry Kane gets a lot of shit. All he needs, though, is a bit of space, and it was uncharacteristic that back 3 of Inter switched off for a couple of seconds. The ball comes over the top. I forget. I think it might have been Lima again, or maybe it was Sané. The ball goes through to Harry Kane, and just a brilliant bit of quick thinking. DiMarco doesn't know what to do. He's trying to tuck his hands in because he doesn't want to concede a penalty. And Harry Kane, it's almost a toe poke. He's looking up, and he manages to find the bottom corner. The keeper doesn't move, and then it's game on. And then, it's 3 or 4 minutes of set piece brilliance just changed the course of the entire game, because at that point it gives not only the goal advantage to the home side Inter, but it gives them the momentum and the psychological boost that, well, if Munich are going to take us somewhere, take us into extra time, then they've got to score another couple of goals, right? I did notice on that watch along and on Twitter that people were complaining that there might have been a handball for that Martinez goal. I've watched it back umpteen times and there isn't. I remember sitting there and I watched DiMarco whip that corner in, the outswinger. And by the way, not a massive fan of outswinging corners. I don't have it set up on Football Manager FM24. I play in-swinging corners near post, either for that flick on or that layoff, and then someone smashes it in. But the minute that ball went in, I thought that this is going to be a goal, and it was, right. And again, people are slamming Kimmich, saying that he should have dealt with it. Look, you can't fuck around with fate, right? Fate. We're all on a journey. We're going from A to B. It's just sometimes we end up going via C, even though we didn't plan on doing it. There's nothing that Kimmich could have done. The ball was whipped in with so much pace. I don't think he cushions it with his hand, Martinez. I think it hits him, it falls on the floor, and Kimmich just can't react quick enough because of the bounce of the ball, and it just gets stabbed home. Yeah, could Herbig have done more? I don't know. But you can argue he was unsighted because he's got he's got 20 other players pretty much stood in front of him, so there's not much he could do. And then don't start playing that game. Would Neuer have saved that? I mean, come on, what would Neuer do? Look, it was just one of those. It was a brilliant set piece. And DiMarco has got that in his locker. It was a brilliant whipped corner in. Yeah, there's a bit of fortune because, like I say, you can't mess around with fate. Kimmich tries to react, he can't, and it gets stabbed home. The next one's a little bit more concerning, like the Pavard goal, and that's going to hurt because of his former Munich allegiance. I thought Min Jae Kim wasn't well. It's not a case of being tight enough. It didn't look like he wanted to win it as much as what Pavard did, and because the fact again, Kim's struggling with injury himself. Well, he's not 100%, is he? He's probably playing at 60%, 65%, just to give him benefit of the doubt, and he just gets out. He gets out jumped. He gets out muscled, and Herbig again. It's reactions, and that's a skill that it seems like he can work on in future. He's only a young lad, that goalkeeper. Maybe in 5 years' time, 5 or 6 years' time, he'll react quicker because he'll been doing those sort of drills every day, and that muscle memory will help him react to it. But again, I haven't looked at the actual stats of how quick that ball was travelling, but it was going quite quick, and you've only got less than a fraction of a thousandth of a second to react to it. So, again, one of those. But, again, let's give credit to Munich for that resilience, for trying to fight their way back into the game. And there were chances, I can't remember if it was before or after the Eric Dyer goal, where Elise, like I say, if he had a right foot, I mean, he obviously does, because otherwise he'd be A, be walking in circles, and B, he'd be crawling on the floor, because you sort of need two legs for balance. Anyway, if he was half as dangerous with that right foot as he is with his left, there's a moment where, the ball comes to him, there's inter-defenders splayed across the floor, and you think, just smash it in with your right foot, it's going in. There's no way someone's going to get to that. It's 2-2. The match momentum's back with you. You can go on and win this. But because he has to get the ball onto his favoured left foot. Again, I'm not that I'm not a professional footballer, but my point is I'd be doing the inverse of that, because my left foot is literally there just for standing on. I'd have to get the ball on my right foot so I could get a shot away, and he was doing the same to get it on his left foot. And by the time he gets it in, probably Bastoni, maybe a Serbi, one of those two, they slide across and the ball goes out for the corner. And it might have been that routine where they do get the goal from. Gnabry puts a ball in over the top, and it looked like that header from Eric Dyer was like a pull shot. I said that in real time. I made a comment on social media about it. Just, yeah, you've either played or you've been in a bar and you've watched people play pool, and when they put English, or they put like a check and some spin on the ball, that's what it looked like. I'm not sure he was actually aiming to score. It looked more like he was trying to nod the ball back over to Kimmich, who again arguably would have more likely tap that ball in had it needed to come out to him. But yeah, just the way it looped over Sommer and into the sort of top bins was like a pull shot. And then the rain's coming down. It's windy. The Inter fans are slightly disturbed. It teed that game up for a frantic final 15 minutes, which is what we got. We saw Kingsley Coman come on again. I just need to remind myself of those swaps. Yeah, Coman comes on for Conrad with a K, Lima at right back. Yeah, Kim went off, didn't he? Pretty much after that Pavard goal, and was replaced by Guerrero. You're surprised that Kim started, to be honest, after Dortmund. Yeah, well, who else plays, right? I mean, that's the that's the dilemma that the big-brained company one's got. Yeah, who else goes in that defence? I mean, yeah, funny enough, Guerrero does come on and replace him at centre back. Well, he's a utility player, I suppose. Paulinho maybe, Pavlovic, yeah, could have possibly slotted in at the back. You wouldn't play Sacha Bowie. I mean, it's not shitting on the guy, but I mean, he's a wing back anyway, right, or a full back. Wouldn't be trusted in the centre, and he's not in the best of form. So, companies paid the big bucks, and he made a big decision. And like I said at the top of the show, he will now be under so much scrutiny. This is the point in his season where he validates that decision is coming as head coach. This is the time he earns his plaudits, because he's got to pick that team off the canvas, getting ready for not just for Heidenheim, but they need 5 wins, right? 5 straight wins in the Bundesliga, and actually 3 in it, I suppose. Maybe 3 in a draw, and we'd be reliant on Leverkusen's results. 3 more wins and the title's theirs. That's all he's got to do. I say all he's got to do, right? But against all that pressure and all the emotion that's swirling around the club about Thomas Muller. So, what am I trying to say? Selection process was, I guess it was handicapped in a way because of the injury list to the team. Yeah, he could have played some others, but I imagine that Kim would have been like, I fucking play. I'm playing. Yeah, I might not be well enough, but I'm still playing. Because there's a lot of pride, right? Well, I'd like to think there's a lot of professionalism and a lot of pride with most footballers that would play regardless. Maybe not David May, but that's a different generation. You thought Stanisic did okay versus Dortmund? Yeah, again, the whole point of me opening this browser window where I saw your insights, which are always extremely savvy. I was looking at touches from players because I was fascinated. And actually, out of 707 touches of the ball for Munich versus only, 473 from Inter. So like I say, they had 2/3 more of the ball. "73 touches for Stanisic," right? So that's the second highest touches of the ball from a Munich player. And actually he did carry it quite a lot, 5 progressive carries, which is only 1 less than Gnabry. So that's my other point. Gnabry came on and played 26 minutes, right? Carried that ball 21 times, 6 progressive carries, attempted 3 dribbles, was successful twice, still managed to find time to put in 2 crosses, and then he played less than half an hour. Oh, and again, everyone giving shit about Harry Kane. Stack up his numbers against Martinez and Thuram. Thuram didn't do a great deal. There was another... Actually, this is something I was trying to say before, that the interplay... that's kind of neat, isn't it? The interplay between the Inter forwards, there were moments where... Because they play with each other inside out, on a daily basis, they know each other inside out. There's an almost kinetic type relationship. I suppose you could argue that should be the same of every footballer with every team, right? But anyway, there's a chemistry about that front line where as the ball's coming in, someone would know to run past it like a dummy, and then it would leave space and a defender looking confused for the other player to get a shot off. That was happening 2 or 3 times, and I thought that was really neat. The fact that, again, the way that Inzaghi set that team up is to soak up a lot of pressure. Yeah, Munich, you knock that ball around, right? You touch it around like a nonce at a kid's party. Might have to edit that bit out. Just some dark autistic thoughts there. You knock that ball around, we're fine. And when you come have a go at our goal, well, we put faith in our keeper, Sommer, and we've got a solid back three that occasionally be backed up by one of the wing backs. So fine, you do what you want with the ball, but just be ready. When we nick it back off you, or if it goes out for a throw-in, just get ready for that assault, for that counter-attack movement, or that solid, that switch. And again, just back to Lima, because I just thought about that. He was switching the ball. Yeah, it gets a lot of shit, Lima, I know, which just seems unfair. Yeah, he's playing at right back because of injuries. He's inverting himself. He's drifting. He switched the ball. He was an asset, I thought, last night, Conrad Lima. So, yeah, look at those Harry Kane numbers. So, 28 touches, 3 shots, 1 on target, scored a goal. Thuram, 26 touches, 2 shots, 1 on target, no goals. Martinez, 29 touches, 1 shot, 1 goal. Okay, whether he was assisted by his hand or not. So, yeah, 100 million transfer for Harry Kane. He's still the top scorer in the Bundesliga, right? He's still got 23 goals. He's at 11 now in the Champions League, which makes him top scorer with Rafinha. I could check that, actually. In fact, we'll do that now, just out of curiosity. Stats. Player stats. Goals. That was Jurassic, of course. Yeah, silly me. Yeah. So Jurassic's he's the leading scorer so far with 13. Rafinha's in second with 12, and Harry Kane and Lewandowski are joint third with 11. That's my other point I was trying to get onto, and I'm glad I've come into this browser. And I found this in it was a comment on the Bayern View. Again, please go and check them out. That, out of 19 games in the 12 games in the Champions League this year, Milan have scored 19. They've kept 8 clean sheets. They've only conceded 5 goals. 5 goals, by the way, in 12 games. 3 of those have come from Bayern Munich, which I still think that's worth clapping that in. Considering the standard's been so high. Against Bayern have scored 31 goals, but they've conceded 18, only kept 4 clean sheets. And yes, it is a problem at the minute. I don't think Munich have had a clean sheet for, and I can tell you that. Can I? Yes, I can. Last time they kept a clean sheet was, in all competitions, by the way, was in that last Champions League game against Bayer Leverkusen, which was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games ago. So in 6 games since that, Bayern have failed to keep a clean sheet. And clean sheets and goals do win you games. I know it's basics, right? It's the basics. Sorry, man. Lift that curse for God's sake, Harry. Yeah, well, he's gonna. It will do it. They will win their 12th salad bowl, the Meisterschale, 12 in 13 seasons. They will win it. Well, I don't even want to think about a scenario where they don't really. And there was another point that someone was arguing that a lot of those Bayern Munich players don't deserve to wear that shirt. Or another way of looking at it is, it's not a golden team, is it? It's not a team that's comparable to the team that won their title 2 years ago, or compared to the team that won the Champions League the last time Thomas Muller and co won it. What was that, in COVID in the 1920 season, right? But how come it's got to this point? That's the question that I suppose really needs asking. And people like Liam and Zia and Strasbourg Steve, what a great name. I thought I had some friends with really cool nicknames, like Cher, Peter Kay, and Anal Steve. But I like Strasbourg Steve. That's one of the best ones I've heard in a while. yeah, their argument is that whatever his name is, I mean, the board is not really a board, is it? I suppose it's a family-run club with some ex-professionals, some of which have got slightly more power than others, and the decisions that they made at times are slightly baffling. It's not my club, is it? So I can't really comment. But my point is, how come the team doesn't compare to that the last Champions League winning team? How come it has dropped off so much? I suppose one argument is that the standard of the overall Bundesliga has got higher. Xabi Alonso coming in with Leverkusen, I only think that's only, for me, it's nothing but a positive, right? The fact that they're increasing the competitive of the league, which means that a team like Munich has to lift itself, and I think it's proving that in certain games where Bayern they're just not used to the competition. I think someone else mentioned that usually in March they've usually won the Bundesliga, right? It's like that's done and dusted. But we'll save the balcony and the bus tour until the end of the season. But that's done, so they can just focus on Champions League. Well, it's not happening this time around. I'd be questioning what's going on with the medical staff, right? What's happening there? And I think I went on this massive rant yesterday, which I did edit out. I did edit it out for the VOD that, there's a lot more football being played these days. Domestically, European competitions, that revised Champions League format has introduced what? Two extra games in that compared to the previous group setup. Plus there's a knockout round, before you even get to the final 16. So there's extra games there. Him with that Italian guy with a big head, not Arnando Inamucci, he's a comedian. In Fontana, that bloke, anyway, right? And all those bods in Switzerland. The next World Cup's going to be even bigger, right? And there's plans to take it even bigger after the one in... it's across 3 countries, right? America, I assume America, Canada, and Mexico. But then the World Cup after that's going to be even bigger, right? So there's just so much football being played that it's not a surprise that in that downtime when players have to travel, you're going to pick up injury, illness because of all the discomfort. And the standard of football is a lot higher than what it used to be when it was Paul McGrath and co having a few beers and going into training wearing a bin bag under the shirt. You could run it off, sweat it out. You can't do that now, right? The pressure, the intensity, not even looking at the social media footprint that all these athletes have to kind of swerve. The demands are so heavy. There's so much football being played. There's so many injuries. Why is it happening to Munich though, right? Like specifically, and how come that squad is so depleted? And they're just, unlike say Inter, they can't compete man for man, right? As in, there's not 2 household names or 2 like A-listers or in FIFA. Sorry, what is it now? EAFC Ultimate Team standard. They haven't got those 92 plus rated players. How come that's happened? They're the questions that I'd be wanting to ask, and I'm sure they're being answered, right? And I'm just not either intelligent enough, or I haven't gone down that rabbit hole enough to figure that out. But yeah, something's not quite right, is it, at Munich? Something's not quite right because that squad shouldn't be in that literally unhealthy. Anyway, I can do it right. It shouldn't be in that position. So they tried really hard. They made it competitive. It was a great spectacle. Wasn't quite the basketball game of the previous night, Dortmund-Barca. I don't think it was ever going to be, really. It felt very much it was attack, siege mentality, because that's the only way that Munich were going to get something out of that game, was to... firing pistol goes off and come at Inter. But again, like I said, the way Inter is set up, it's like, that's fine. You bring it on. We're comfortable with that because we know we've got the quality to strike on the counter or just a couple of passes. Fucking hell, Bastoni at the back is... I meant to say this the other day. Like, it's not quite a regista, but it's that football manager mentality of if you've got someone that's that skilled, that's that comfortable on the ball, that can carry it out and ping a pass 50, 60 yards to pick out someone on an overlap. Then you've got 2 brutes in Thuram. Well, you've got a brute in Thuram, and then you've got the high IQ factor of Martinez. That's what Munich are missing, right? They're missing someone to be able to carry that ball out the back. I know that once they get the ball to Kimmich, he is almost like the designated driver, right? He's the designated one that will look up and find one of those inside forward / wingers on left or right wing. He'll look up for an Elise or the Sane. Yeah, man. If Elise had a right foot, Christ almighty, we'd all be, this would be a very different atmosphere. We'd all be like relishing the fact that, Munich are going to be playing Barca, but as it is, it's not the case, is it? So, we've got 3 people in. This is brilliant. Yeah, thank you so much. Everyone's welcome. Men Cry too. Yeah, any thoughts, please share them with us. Where can I go to with this then? So, we know the result. We've talked about the lineup. We've covered some analytics. It was a real shame for Thomas Muller. Like I say, I think all of us wanted to see Muller lift that European Cup in his home ground one final time, but it's not meant to be. It's just not meant to be, is it? All good things coming to an end. But he's still got the chance to win another Bundesliga and potentially win the Club World Cup, which is going off in the summer. Can't wait for that one. And we look forward to the semi-finals where we shall be making predictions as requested, because we listen to our community and we do what you ask, basically. Other than that, thank you all for being part of it. He's been Gonzo. I've been Craig. You've been extremely patient and highly interactive, loving the energy. Like I say, there'll be a VOD up later this afternoon where I try and edit this one down, try and tidy it up, put a bow on it, and then hopefully we'll back on stream this afternoon, opening some stickers and possibly even playing FM. I should probably get a disc. Yeah, I'm going to look into a Discord then to see if we can start that off the ground. But again, I'll go where people are. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Just go where people are and go with the flow. Be like water. Bruce Lee style. Anyway, thank you for being part of it. Commiserations to Munich, to Bayern View, to Danny at Always Buying Chelsea, to everybody else out there, to Zia Talks. Commiserations, but, correct it by getting back to winning ways against Heidenheim on the weekend. As for Inter, well done. I also heard that they're 12 games unbeaten in Serie A, 4 points clear and en route for the title. Although Nico did call out in that Taftman group that they've got some tough fixtures coming up. Is a Napoli in there, Roma game. They've got the final of the Coppa. Not the Coppa del Rey, that's Spain, isn't it? Coppa Italia, sorry. They've got some tricky games coming up. And then they've got to take on Barca. And we look forward to Arsenal PSG. Anyway, if we don't hear from you again before Easter, have a great one. You can find us on all major social media channels, but really just subscribe here on YouTube so then you'll know where we are, or follow us on Twitch. Otherwise, thanks everyone for being part of it. It's been brilliant. It's gone way better than what I thought. Right, enjoy your day. Hopefully catch you soon. Auf Wiedersehen. Ciao, ciao, ciao for now.